Trevor, what's happening?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So you and I have had a real interesting couple of minutes so far.
We have. You told me you love me. Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah. To be clear, I said I love you. I don't even remember. Did I say love you, baby, or anything like that?
But just love you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the best version.
So my wife popped in, handed me a cup filled with ice.
Yep.
And then she's walking out. I think she already had the door closed as I said that. And Trevor just happened to pop in right as I love you came out of my mouth. So
I didn't mind. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And the best part is he's in such a better mood now.
I am. I'm ready to go.
All right. So I want to start off with some things that you probably can't speak on at all. But hey, who knows? Maybe this will only help you. So there's a company called Datto. They just got acquired by Kaseya. Datto has it's an RMM, an RMM and a PSA. And the PSA piece is possibly the closest thing to what you do.
All right.
But it's, professional services automation for MSPs. So, Datto, people think highly of them. Kaseya is the complete opposite. So everyone's really upset that Kaseya just acquired Datto. And what? Yeah. Let me look at my note, because $6.2 billion.
It's a few dollars.
It's a few dollars.
It's a few bucks.
I got to say, there's not a whole lot I wouldn't do for $6.2 billion.
Yeah, it's a few bucks right there. Yeah.
Short of selling my soul to Satan.
Yeah. I'm not sure I would do that one.
Yeah. I'd prefer heaven. All right. So you are Trevor. Your company name is Yottled.
That's right. Like Yottled in a bottle.
Yeah. And
exactly.
I like to flip things. How most of the time, you do the whole webinar or podcast, and then at the end you learn about the company.
Sure.
I like to flip it. Let's get the tough stuff out of the way. Okay. And then the rest of the episode will be all about the meat and potatoes.
Okay. That sounds great.
What is Yottled?
Pretty cut and dry. We help service-based businesses sell their services online. You can think of it as a sort of Shopify for services. We sort of everything all in one in a box, so that you can be effective in worrying about what the important things are, your clients and customers. We take care of everything else. Automated scheduling, marketing, payment processing, CRM. It's basically all in one place for you to effectively sell your time. And we have two primary types of customers. We have what we would refer to as a bookable customer. Those are things like hair salons, massage, fitness and wellness, where you just want to come to their website, you want to book. And then we have what we would refer to as an invoiceable customer, where more or less you want to inquire a little bit more about their services, ask a couple of questions. You're going to send, as the business, quote, and then maybe go back and forth, qualify a couple more things about them, about the customer. And then once the quote's approved, you're going to do the work and then finally send them an invoice. And so good, people that fall into that bucket are landscaping, attorneys, accountants. And so we cater to both. The nuances are very minor. And at the backbone of everything is obviously scheduling, so that you can sort of block off your time and make sure that you're effective in serving both of those customers.
So it's a neat sounding software. It's not software that I would anticipate many MSPs wanting to use. No offense.
Just
because, there's the auto tasks, maybe not for long, the ConnectWises, There's a lot of systems out there specifically designed for MSPs. However, we may have customers that could take advantage of this type of software.
Yeah, that's a great point, Steve. So what we have found is we have a really strong partner network of there's always the tech people, put in air quotes, that we end up working with to deploy the software and integrate it, in different nuances, whether it's the website or payment processor or something along those lines. And usually what ends up happening is we'll either work direct with a customer or we'll sell through some sort of other partner where they themselves are actually going through and helping the customer in some form or fashion understand, oh, hey, here's how you can do marketing. Here's how you can actually deploy and run the software effectively, manage your CRM, provide value to your customer. And that has been very effective, not just for us, but ultimately for the partner that we're working with and to sell through to actually benefit themselves and also the customer.
And do you have maybe like an affiliate type program or anything where MSPs can maybe, if I have a client purchase Yottled, I get a little piece every month?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So we'll work directly with the MSP to basically find out what works best for them. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's a specific dollar amount that they prefer or a percentage, a certain number of points that they want to work with. And then not only that, but we'll actually train them up on the software to make sure that they're effective in selling and ultimately providing value to obviously their customer themselves. So that, we really try to make it a joint relationship between us and then ultimately their customer. So it's not so much like, oh, hey, you got to check the software out. It's when the customer ultimately brings them a problem to say, hey, look, I'm looking for a payment processor. I'm looking for a way to effectively do marketing or manage my clients. We want to be, sort of like top of mind for them. Oh, hey, you know what? Let's check this out. And that's the way that we prefer to do business. And obviously, like, we want to train the MSPs to be as effective as possible, so that they're not only getting the points on the software that we help them sell, but obviously they can do it some sort of other services that are baked on top of that as well.
All right. So today, and look, guys, we're not even at the 10-minute mark, and we're going to start diving into meat and potatoes. So if you're interested, check out Yottled. I'll have the link in the show notes. Let's dive right in. So today we're going to talk about showing prospects and clients that you have value and continuing to deliver value over and over. So with that, what's the secret, Trevor? Let's make this a 12-minute podcast. There's just one secret, right?
Yeah, I think, ultimately, I think that there are a few ways that you can ultimately show and provide value to your customers. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much like sending that aggressive marketing email to say, hey, special deal, sign up now. I think ultimately, we could even use the podcast here as an example. It's if we can get the customer to see, 5-10 seconds for permission to ask, for an additional 10 seconds, for permission to ask for an additional 10 seconds. And we're consistently delivering value, whether it's through humor or through actually sort of showing content that they want and ultimately will benefit from in the long run. That's the way that we would potentially want to be engaged, and our customers want to ultimately be engaged. Steve, it looks like you had a question. Go ahead.
So what do you mean by asking for 10 seconds repeatedly? Because that sounds like the worst date ever.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So think about it like this. If we just say, hey, I just recorded this webinar, come watch the entire 45-minute webinar. It is highly likely that, not a lot of people are going to ultimately watch the entirety of that 45-minute webinar. And it is also highly likely that there's a couple nuggets that you want to ultimately provide to your customers. And so I think the question that we must ask ourselves is, and if we can if we can drive it back to sort of like sales and cold calling or even warm calling or something along those lines, is what's the hook? What's the ultimate thing that you provide that your customers need and want? Because we have to ask for sort of that thing and prove that we are the tool or that we are the service for our customers. And we have to continue to prove that over and over and over again. And usually it's done in such a way, and we need to do it in such a way that we are providing value first. We have to give before we can take. So if we consider, sort of like the example of that 45-minute webinar, and if we even ask ourselves, how often have we sort of like scrolled LinkedIn or scrolled some social media networks? How often have we ourselves watched a 45-minute webinar? And even if you look at sort of like, oh, you get views on this thing, the way in which most social media platforms actually count views. Steve, do you know how they count views in terms of like, if they give you credit for a view? Do you know how much time a user has to watch a piece of content to count it as a view?
I believe it's 3 seconds.
3 seconds. That's right. So a user watches something for 3 seconds. That counts as a view. And so we ourselves, we get that sort of like, ooh, good feeling, right? Oh, it feels so nice to have somebody, social media network say like, hey, you got a view on this. And it's 3 seconds. And so if we consider that just for a moment, a user is counted as a view for watching something for 3 seconds. And yet we're putting up these things for content that's, 30, 45, 60 minutes long. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, if we ourselves aren't even watching stuff for, 3, 10, 15 seconds, and yet we're consistently publishing things for, 45-minute, webinar or whatever, it is near impossible for us to actually assume that our customers are going to want to sort of absorb that material, because the demand for attention is just crazy these days. So we must be able to articulate our message in these like very quick nuggets and be able to provide value to our customers in very succinct, clear, articulate messages where it's almost sort of like a laser beam, where you must be able to sort of hone in and provide that value to your customer in sort of like 5 seconds. And then if you continue to sort of like customer wants to keep watching, that's where it sort of like is this notion of, I provide enough value, I've asked for that permission. Now they're going to keep watching for an additional 5 seconds, and then an additional 10, and then an additional 20. And there's more sort of like tips and tricks that we can sort of like dive into and talk about. But before we get to that point, does that make sense, Steve?
I think it does. Yeah.
Excellent. So now if we sort of like have that rooted in our heads, we've got that sort of like where we're providing not these sort of like very extensive long, and I know that we're talking about a, podcast now. We're sort of like getting into this in a podcast, but even in these podcasts, they're sort of like very likely succinct nuggets. So we can sort of tease out where we're giving these points of value. And then we can sort of provide that in addition to other aspects of content to our customers. Okay. So now if we sort of like have that rooted in our head, and what are then the succinct messages that we want to provide as value to our customers? Okay, so now we then have to think about what and where are our customers searching for us? How are they searching for us? And how do we actually want to drive our customers to actually find us? And so then this gets into this other sort of way in which most customers are likely looking for us, which is search engine optimization, or what's an acronym called SEO. So this is something where a lot of people start, and it gets sort of like, oh, I need to blog, I need to write things, I need to sort of like get this stuff out. And so, I think that a lot of people will write content, but then it's a matter of how do you actually get ranked, and then how do you actually provide that done in such a way that your customers actually want to read it and want to find you. So what I mean by that is, as MSPs, it is highly likely that everyone has very specific niches and information in their head that is going to be valued by your customer and valued by sort of like anyone that wants to read it, and it done in such a way that you should be thinking about giving it away. And what I mean by that is, as an example, I'm going to use our business as a context here. So
Okay.
we have tons of customers coming to us saying, how do I rank on Google? Like literally, how do I like make a business profile? How do I do all this? We literally have one of our most read blog articles right now is how do I get my business on Google? And we have a very sort of like lengthy blog post about how to do that. And so we just wrote it. You can go find it. We don't charge for it. And it's just done in such a manner that like, we've optimized for sort of like giving that away to our users, and the way in which we have done it gets us to the top of specific sort of like these Google searches. So now sort of like when a customer goes to look for how do I get my business on Google type of thing, we want, thank you so much, Steve, for putting that in the chat. So now it's done in such a way that like our customers can find us, they naturally find value. And then that's just like in the back of our customers' heads where sort of like, they say, oh man, like that was really beneficial. Maybe, they're going to provide other, points of benefit. And so as another example, one of our other top rated blog posts or top search blog posts is, landscaping, spreadsheet, for expenses. So another example is sort of like, hey, look, it's free content. You can just come grab one of our, expense spreadsheets. We've already got it done for you. It's just right there. And so like, if you're a landscape company, you're looking for how to do sort of like get your company ranked on Google, you're looking for an expense spreadsheet. Now, all of a sudden, like, like I could continue to do this in a very manual process, but based on the continued content that I'm reading from this company, maybe there's a way that I can continue to sort of like automate and optimize my business. And I actually don't have to do it anymore because I have higher functioning tasks that I should be doing, such as earning more clients and, sort of like doing the work that I would rather be doing. And so it's done in such a way that we provide all this free content, free value. And then it is likely that there's going to come a point in that customer lifecycle journey where they say, you know what? I'd rather offload a lot of these tasks to somebody else, such as Yottled, where then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Why don't you take over automating a portion of my business? And then because of all the value that I found in continuing to work with you, you take over that. And I'm going to, sort of like go do what I'm really good at, which is, delighting customers with sort of landscaping. But thank you for all the free value that I found by working with you up front. Sense so far?
It does. Now, I got to say, your team, and I always wonder. So you've got Laura and Medha, I think is how you.
That's
so.
Yep.
Those are actual employees.
So Laura was a contract content writer that we worked with for quite some time, and then Meta is a permanent employee. Yes.
Good for you. So with that, you write a ridiculous amount of blog posts. Like, you only have 10 pages of posts, but when you decided, like, you know what, I'm going all in on blogging. It looks like that happened October is about when you said, you know what, let's go nuts.
That's right.
And that's when you decided you're going to make, gosh, you have some days where you posted more than one time. October 21st, you posted 3 articles. You could have spread it out, Trevor.
So, that's a great point, Steve. So I think the important thing to know is just basically how search engine optimization works. And that's a really good point. So search engine optimization, just basically how Google picks some of these things up. They highlight what's called keywords, and I have 2 tools that I would highly recommend. Anyone who's getting started with getting your company found in an organic sense. And there's sort of like 2 ways that you can get found. One is what's called organic, which, is just sort of like you go to Google, you type in best MSPs, and all of a sudden you find the best MSPs, or even I'm based out of Ann Arbor, best MSPs in Michigan, right? And all of a sudden, like, those come to the top. That is an organic style fashion where just through sort of like over time, indexing on sort of like some keywords where MSP may be a keyword, or managed service provider is another keyword that you can look for. There are ways in which you can specifically look for those style words as a as a company to then write specifically targeted content to match for those keywords. And then you can even take it another level where maybe, sort of like best MSP is a really hard thing to rank for. But best MSP in Michigan may actually be easier to rank for. So the two tools that I would absolutely advocate anyone goes out and, checks out, one is called SEMrush. So SEMrush is a reasonably priced tool. I think it costs maybe $140 a month. And I know it sounds expensive, in terms of like the grand scheme of a lot of other products. But I will say that if you want to have an organic strategy, you are able to do absolutely incredible things with SEMrush, where it's to the point of you can look at what your competitors are doing. You can even look at what ads from a search engine marketing perspective your competitors are running. You can look up how, if you wanted to go look up, as an example, Shopify, and find out what keywords they're ranking for, you can do that. You can find out how difficult keywords are to rank for. And there are marvelous, YouTube channels that will literally walk you through exactly what you need to do in order to find out just how difficult some of these keywords are to rank for. And then also sort of like, let's suggest that you want to look up managed service provider. Well, here are some adjacent keywords to managed service provider, and just how difficult those keywords would be to rank for. So maybe managed service provider is hard to rank for, but again, managed service provider in Ann Arbor or in Michigan is actually really easy to rank for. And then all of a sudden, just by writing, one or two blog posts, you're going to go to the top.
And I want to stress this. There is this wonderful problem that MSPs have. It's called the curse of knowledge. And I bet you have this too in your business. Trevor, what would you call your product, your platform? If you were in a room with, employees from Kajabi and Podia and all these other, what are you guys?
I'm not sure I quite understand that question, Steve. Like, what are we in terms of that sort of like bucket of tools?
Yes.
I think we are a platform to sell services. Is that what you're driving at, or did you have a different question in mind?
So, MSP is a term that MSPs use. It is not a term that customers use.
Completely agree. Yep. So
what do you call yourselves when you're speaking with others in your field?
Yeah, now I understand. I think a little bit more about what you're saying. So are you asking like, what would a customer go in and type into Google? Is that what you're
right now? I'm asking, what is Yottled? What is Yottled's term for Yottled when speaking with other professionals in the same field as Yottled?
Got it. We're an e-commerce platform to sell services.
Okay. So e-commerce platform to sell services. Yeah. That, nobody knows to type that in.
Right. Yeah. No one's going to come in to type e-commerce platform to sell services. Exactly right. Yes.
So obviously people might type in like Shopify or, they're going to look up how do I build a website? That kind of stuff.
Yes.
They're going to look up, how do I book customers or let customers book, and how do I let customers book and charge them during the process?
Exactly, dude. Yes, Steve, you're hitting the nail on the head. Keep going.
So now we need to talk about, what do MSPs provide to their customers? Okay. So,
yeah.
Because customers aren't looking up MSPs or managed service providers in Cleveland, Ohio, or any other city for that matter. They're looking up company to service specializes in Apple computers or
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Steve, you're hitting the nail on the head. Okay, so here's a very concrete example. Very to address your question. We just Meta, who is one of the most unbelievable content writers I've ever worked with. She just finished up. She's one of our employees.
Got it.
Yep. She is absolutely unbelievable. I cannot say enough good things about having a phenomenal content writer, but you should also know that you can do this yourself. So it's not like you need to go hire someone to do this. You can do this yourself. Okay. She just finished up a 12 blog post series that has nothing to do with us.
Right.
What I mean by that is she just wrote 12 blog posts about Pilates.
I saw that. You have a great deal of content on your website about Pilates.
That's right.
Do you like Pilates?
Again, this has nothing to do with what we like. It has nothing to do with e-commerce platforms for services. Now we're going to get into a little bit more about sort of like some strategy elements. Okay, so now if you actually crack open and look at what we can rank for on Google and also what customers are looking for, it sort of leans into why we have written so much content about Pilates. So in general, a lot of people are searching for personal training. A lot of people are searching for yoga. A lot of people are searching for other types of terms, which means that those terms are very hard to rank for right now. So if we were to go sort of like write best, fitness tool for us, that'd be really hard, and we'd sort of be lost in the void, and we would never rank for that.
But
however,
because I'm skipping ahead. But because you're writing all of this content, you've got 12 blog articles you're going to have posted all about Pilates. And I see you've got push press CrossFit, how to do it and what are its main benefits. 7 different types of Pilates methods to know about. You're literally talking and educating the end user about this stuff. And what you're doing is you're creating the concept that you are a thought leader in that industry or in that search engine term.
That's yes.
And because your company is a thought leader, then when you start typing things that say, best Pilates software or best Pilates company management platform or something along those lines, right? Now, Google already believes you that you know what you're talking about with Pilates. So now you're going to rank better. Are you going to rank number 1? Time will only tell, right? But you at least stand a chance because you've written all that content. So what I would say, it sounds like what MSPs could do. We don't necessarily want to say, for example, write about Pilates and CrossFit.
Probably not.
We don't really want to write. Obviously, like those might not necessarily be the best customers. So we don't want to write about tax law or that type of stuff, right? But what we could be writing about, let's do a 50 blog series on Microsoft 365. Let's walk somebody through. Here's one of the many products you get. And not just here's how to use Word, but like Microsoft Bookings. Like here's how to use that platform as part of the 365 thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that there's likely very key elements to Microsoft Office 365 or Azure or whatever the sort of like sort of like tangential example is. And then, how to write, GPOs in, the new Azure world or whatever the case is, still using Active Directory on-prem. Here's how to move to the whatever the case is. But the key thing that I will highlight is using tools to help aid in what you are specifically writing about. So here, let's go down this rabbit hole just for a moment. If you went out and just started writing for the purpose of writing without really understanding what Google is going to want to look at, probably won't rank, which is where tools like SEMrush really, really help. So tools like SEMrush you're able to literally put in your blog idea or whatever it is that you have, and it will tell you exactly how hard and how many sort of like articles you would need to write in a sort of like space that will basically say this is a very easy term for you to rank for, or actually this is pretty hard. And then there's another tool that I would highly recommend called Yoast, Yoast. It plugs into existing tools. Like if you're running a WordPress website, it will tell you, okay, you know what, you want to rank for, moving to Azure as an example. And so you've got that. And then, you're trying to write a blog article about it. It will literally tell you, guess what? Google is really going to like what you have done here, or you actually need to change one or two things. And here are the specific items that you need to change. So if you're just trying to dip your toe in the water, it is an unbelievable, like 1-2 punch combo to have Yoast plus SEMrush. And the best part is if you have it written on WordPress, they actually talk to each other. So it will literally tell you, guess what? You've got 50,000 people that are searching for this. It's super easy to rank for. Here's the term that you need to write about. It's absolutely incredible the way all three platforms, WordPress, Yoast, and SEMrush, talk to each other. And then if you consider just for a moment, that sort of like 60-second snippet of like, hey, guess what, everyone? I just wrote this really amazing, blog article about how to move to Azure. It's going to run you through it in sort of like a very quick way. Here's the top 3 benefits that you're going to get. Come check out my blog post. Now, all of a sudden, like, instead of somebody basically walking through and watching this like 45-minute slog of a webinar video, you now have just explained to your customer in laser focus, here's what you're going to be able to read. It's going to take you 5 minutes to run through this. Here's the 3 main benefits that you're going to walk away from. Go read my blog post. And so like, it's very clear to the customer exactly what they're going to get, why they're going to get it. You're going to rank on Google. They're going to find you, immediate value and benefit.
I love this. Okay. So let's talk about this a little deeper. Stall.
Okay. Let me stall then and just provide a little bit more sort of like rationale and a way that you should think about each one of these things. So, let's use ourselves. Again, I always go back to using myself as the primary person that I would look at and read through this. So think of it as, like, even if you're not a business person and you've never sort of like had to do any of these things before, it's referred to as a funnel, meaning sort of like, a sales funnel, or, you got to fill up your car with gasoline on the side of the road. Wow, that might be an outdated reference at some point in the future due to electric cars, but hey, you know what? We'll roll with it for now. So we've got to fill up our car with gas. We've got this funnel, right? Okay, so I'm going to continue to sell hot dog. We've got SEMrush. Yes, this is great, and we're going to run through this in just a minute.
Yes,
but think of it as a funnel. The very first thing that you need to do to have someone find you, and we have all done this. You type your question into Google. I don't care what your question is. You're going to type your question into Google. What are the best, whatever it is? My wife is really into birds. What are the best bird cameras? You're going to type that question into Google, right? You're going into Google. You're going to type that question in. So you type that question into Google, and all of a sudden, like, you get some results, top 10 bird cameras or whatever the case is. You are an unqualified buyer at that point. Doesn't matter what the question is. You're going to go type that question in and you're going to get results. And these are just simply people that are trying to provide you with value to say like, hey, look, ultimately they have sort of like this, side goal, right? To get you to convert, but they're just providing you this value. Now all of a sudden you get sort of like that top of funnel, and there's other sort of like conversion elements that happen. Other conversion elements are literal landing pages. So like landing pages are like a one step down, which is basically like, here's the actual value of our product. So now sort of like you click on that camera, that camera that you're really interested in. And now it's sort of like the landing page of here's the actual description of the camera. Here's the elements of the camera. Buy now. And so now like you can literally start to think of this as the sort of conversion event. You are highly likely not going to get any conversions from that first blog post of here's the sort of value of, Azure and all the stuff, right? We're just providing value. That's the first element of what you are trying to do. The next step down though is sort of like, hey, do you need some more information? Contact me for help. If you are interested in learning more about specifics of this, Azure and all that stuff. And so it's all about sort of like establishing the consistency of this funnel so that they do ultimately perceive you, I'm going to use your word, Steve, as that thought leader, and they ultimately want to reach out to you.
Yes. All right. So hopefully I was not distracting you by opening all these tabs and
no.
Okay. All right. So I've opened up 3 things.
Let's do it.
The first thing I opened up, I literally just started a trial of SEMrush.
Yeah. Great.
I opened up a tool that I bought. I love AppSumo. Are you familiar with AppSumo?
I sure am.
So I have a problem. I like to buy new toys. And most of the time my new toys are software. So this is one of those new toys I got years ago now. SE ranking, search engine ranking. So like this, I think is able to do maybe not everything, but hopefully a lot of the things that SEMrush can do. And then finally, Surfer SEO is my favorite tool. Because it's got few enough options that I can figure out where to go. So, so I want to show you, if I come in here and I do research, and let's say I want to do, nope, this one is just the country. So if I want to do keyword research on, what do I want to do keyword research on?
Let's do a managed service provider, just as an example, or Azure, best Azure tools. I don't know. Do whatever you want. We'll figure this out, right?
Here, yeah. Let's look up managed service provider. So in here, it gives me similar keywords. And here's where I'm like, okay, now what? So I assume I'm supposed to like, okay, that's not what I thought it was going to do. I can put that in the clipboard and that.
So let's go to SEMrush, because I have a little bit more context with SEMrush.
But it's so much prettier. That's the problem, Trevor, is I buy things based on if they're pretty or not on how well they work. So
all right. Well, let's go to SEMrush. Let's click on that keyword magic tool on the left-hand side.
Cute. I can't even find it. There's so many options, Trevor.
Oh, I know. Okay. So let's type in something. We can type in, managed service provider. Perfect. Great. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of things here. And we're basically going to establish how you and your customers, or I should say how you and our MSP friends that may or may not be listening are going to be able to use a tool like this.
All right.
On the very top, what we're going to see is a couple of things. So first of all, the first column that we see is called the intent. This is what a person like ourselves are going to be typing into Google. So we just typed in the search of managed service provider. This is what we would type into Google. And we can see the search intent. There are different types of search intent, and you can just mouse over and find out what this is.
Informational, transactional,
commercial. There's a bunch of different types of search intent. So here we see that right now, it's just sort of like, I have a question, I want to type it in, and I want to find the answer. You can also see the overall trend. I would expect that most of these are going to be sort of flat. There's not going to be a ton of change. You might expect that like there are going to be other searches that do have high variation in terms of their change. Maybe sort of like when the latest Bitcoin run up happens, Bitcoin is going to have right. But here we can see sort of like overall different. There's going to be probably a pretty flat print. Okay, so the next one is called, and probably the one that we're going to spend a fair amount of time sort of like thinking about, is called the keyword difficulty. So this means that if we were to write a blog post or a piece of content, a landing page, where the predominant thing that we are writing about focuses on the term of managed service provider or managed service providers, or like whatever that keyword term is, how hard is it for us to rank for that particular term? So the first one here,
the higher the number, the harder it is.
Bingo. Higher is more hard. So when we're first getting started out, we really want things that are sub 40 in terms of the keyword difficulty.
Moving to New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. That is right. And so, usually they are tightly coupled with the search volume. So you can imagine that more volume for a particular thing has more results, more people are searching for that, indicating higher difficulty. That's not always the case, but it is usually the case. So what we're going to want to do is find things. And of course, we can search and filter and, do a whole bunch of different things. But what we're probably going to want to do is find a reasonable volume, reasonable being above 100 in a particular month, that has a keyword difficulty of less than 40. That gives us a reasonable search volume, a reasonable chance at ranking. And then, here's a great one, sort of like managed service providers, Naperville, Illinois. Man, there's a ton of volume there, 260, searches, and no one is ranking on that. I guarantee you, if you are a managed service provider listening on the phone and you want to start ranking for people searching in Naperville, hot dog, man, like there are people searching for that. And all it would take, I promise you, is one or two blog posts writing about why you are the best service provider in Naperville, Illinois. And in a couple of weeks, boom, you are going to be top ranked for the, managed service provider in Naperville, Illinois. And this is what I'm saying. Like, I want you to consider something just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
There are 260 search results in a given month for that particular search term. 260. Now there's a trend here that's going up. That is a very simple no one is ranking for that. Now let's take a step back just for a moment. 260. That is one of the easiest search terms I've ever seen with an 8. Like, no one is ranking for that. As an MSP, if you rank for that and you convert out of those 260, if you convert 1 customer, 2 customers, 3 customers, just for ranking for that, the best managed service provider in Naperville, Illinois, you convert 3 customers. What does that do for your business? If you go down
a big deal.
Could you say that again, Steve?
That's a pretty big deal, man.
That's huge. If you convert even 1% of that, like 2.6 customers, that is massive, which is why I'm saying effectively being able to wield a tool for search engine optimization, coupling that with something like Yoast, SEMrush, and blogging for specific terms like this, managed service providers in Bethesda, you could just go down the list and literally figure out what is the best way for you to rank for things like this. And the way to think about it in your head is, if you can capitalize on even 1, 2, 3% for things like this, how will that impact your business? And is it worth your time to do things like this? I promise you it will be, because all of a sudden your content will start just ranking at the top if you can effectively do it.
So when we look at this, for managed service providers, it's a little different from them in the sense that they're typically regional, like
100%. Yes.
For you, it's super easy. Like, oh, dude, I'm going to rank in Winston-Salem and Naperville, Illinois, and Hawaii and Dubai, like wherever you can, you want to rank.
100%.
Us, we want to specifically rank. Let's type in. Let's just use the Naperville as our example. I know nothing about it. I don't even know what part of Illinois it's in. It's 2 states over. I've never been to Illinois.
Yep.
However, I do at least have a basic understanding of SEO and all that stuff. So what would the next step be? Now that we've decided this is the keyword or key term for us, let me back up. Is that the next step after we do this search? Is our next step picking a keyword?
I think that there's a couple things. One is this isn't the only keyword that we're gonna go after.
Correct.
So this would certainly be one of them. And as you can see, it has commercial intent. We've sort of proven that in a very sort of like trivial example here, we've definitely proven that there's something here that we could very easily go after. But let's take a step back and just and sort of go one step backwards.
Sure.
So this would be very, very easily a landing page, meaning this would sort of like if we remember that funnel that we talked about just a couple moments ago, this would be
this is just one of the pages on our website.
Exactly.
One page is going to rank about this. And the thing that I've learned, so here's where this gets fun for me. The thing that I've learned from Surfer is if I were to come in here, and I'll waste a content editor on this. If any of you are in Naperville, Illinois, reach out to me because I will maybe hook you up once I'm done. So if I come in here and I hit create content editor, and now what it's doing is it's going to create a content editor for me that shows me all the keywords I'm supposed to rank for. So this is how I've traditionally done my SEO.
Gotcha.
I have not done the research part. I want to rank for these keywords, so I'm going to start writing about it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So again, I think that there's a couple different ways that we can approach this. So one is sort of like, I would always do the research up front.
Sure.
Again, sort of like the thing that we want to talk about here is this is sort of like customers ready to convert. They know that they need an MSP. They know that sort of like this is the thing that they're ready to do, and they are looking for that partner. And so I think that that's one side of the equation. And it's commercial intent. They're ready to go. They're ready to buy.
Right.
The thing though that I think we immediately jumped into was basically like, and what we forgot about is the other components, which are basically what value should we be providing first before a customer even realizes, oh shit, wait, can I say that? Sorry. Well, I did now. Whoops. I need an MSP. So I think that there's an educational component first that we sort of like top of funnel that we have to be talking about to the customer, which is basically, all the other pieces that we may need to be educating the customer about to basically say, look, here is what you should be doing with Azure. Here's what we should be doing with your GPOs. Here's what you should be doing with your security policy. Here's what you should be doing with if you're using.
Got it. So how do we use SEMrush to help us build that whole campaign?
Okay. Yes. All right. So perfect. So now let's think about now this is where sort of like we would have to defer a little bit to each of our own individual expertise because of the fact that, like, as an example, last time I was certified on any Active Directory infrastructure, it was in 2003. So my Active Directory knowledge is certainly not going to be as well versed as some of the other MSPs that are on the phone. So here, let's just play with this example, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, we can pick a different, but no, play it out, man. Let's
Okay, so just to play this out, just as an example, if I was an MSP, and I had intimate knowledge of Azure Active Directory, the best place to start may be sort of like, let's here in that search box up top, type in Azure Active Directory just for a moment, and let's see what comes up. And here, what we're doing is we're using the keyword magic tool. Yeah, perfect. And do me a favor, would you hit the keyword magic tool, which is that one step down?
Oh, but this is my favorite part when it's got the questions and all that.
Okay, so here here, let's go here just for a moment. Okay, so here we've got,
this is showing us based on volume and everything else.
Yeah, but here, this is where we can actually find out just what people are looking for, why they're looking for it, and also a couple of different other ways that we can do this. So here, up at the top, do you see where it says KD% by that filter? Do me a favor and
I messed with this earlier.
Perfect. Okay, so where it says from to, hit that to, and let's just do 50. Let's just see what comes up. We'll leave the from,
Sure, 0 to 50, easy peasy.
Easy peasy. That's right. Okay, so now what we have here is a good sort of sense of, all right, we've got on the left-hand side, it's showing 86 total. Do you see where it says all keywords on the left-hand side? At the top left, we've got 86 keywords that are left, where they're all going to be sub 50 in terms of difficulty. And now we can start to basically scroll down. So here's a great one. Azure Active Directory, disable MFA for user. Okay, so
sounds like a fantastic idea, by the way.
It really does. It really does, right? Okay, so but now let's think about it from this perspective. Maybe we write a post about why that's a terrible idea. Okay, so there are people that are literally going into Google and typing Azure Active Directory, disable MFA for user.
That's true.
And put that as keywords into your blog posts. All of a sudden, now you're perceived as a thought leader to say, listen, this is probably not the best idea. And as a matter of fact, here's all the reasons why you wouldn't necessarily want to do that. There are 359,000 search results for that. And imagine if you were the number one search result for that. And you then all of a sudden list out all the reasons why, pros, cons, and now you're a thought leader for that. Best part is, as an MSP, my presumption is you have a couple products in that back pocket of yours that you support, whether it's Azure, Duo, some stuff at Cisco, that can basically help. If they're searching for that, maybe there's easier and better products to use in your toolkit that you can actually help the customer with, to say, look, maybe Azure isn't the best thing for MFA, but here's some other things that Azure does integrate with that you can actually to lower the help desk costs and also increase security effectiveness in your organization. And so all of a sudden, boom, now you're perceived as the expert for MSP or MSSP. And why don't you offload that to us and we can help you with that? So the trick here is to not push, educate, and then all of a sudden you're the thought leader.
And I just want to clarify. So here's the funniest part about this this conversation we're having. Trevor does not offer what we're talking about as a service.
Yeah.
You're not trying to say, but if this is too difficult, just outsource it to me. No, you don't want that because this isn't your business. This is just how you do things in your business, and you want to share that with us. So that's the funniest part to me, because I'm looking at this and, I'm probably feeling like most MSPs. My eyes are glazed over and I'm like, this is hard, right?
It's not hard,
but it feels hard. And honestly, Trevor, I might want to pick your brain for a few weeks or so as I try and do some things for my own business, just because I want to have a better understanding of what you're pitching here with SEMrush, because I think I'm able to learn things pretty quickly. And if it's truly not hard, then I want to become good at this so I can help MSPs rank better and all that good stuff, right? So So let's say we're gonna write an article now for this Azure Active Directory stuff. So we've thought about Azure Active Directory, we searched the term, and now what we're doing is we see here's some keywords that would be excuse me. Thank you. That would be relatively easy to write and rank for.
Yep.
And so these are the keywords of things we want to write about.
Yep.
Based on now we've just, and by finding all these keywords, now we're proving that we're like the experts at Azure Active Directory. And
that's right.
We're able to easily, out of 86 keywords, we could easily find like, okay, I saw one here, Azure Active Directory logo, disable MFA.
Yeah, so you're hitting the nail on the head. So now all of a sudden you start writing about this stuff, and the trick here is to use secondary tool, which is they have a free version just to get your feet wet, or spend a couple of dollars to upgrade. I think it's $60 for the year, might be $50 for the year, which is called Yoast, Yoast. And what that's going to do is it will connect. It will literally sort of like integrate within your blog posting platform. We use WordPress. Here you go. Perfect. And what it's literally going to do is it's going to look at your blog posts, and it will literally tell you, hey, look, you haven't written your keyword enough times. Oh, it's okay. $100 a year. Sorry. They've increased the price a little bit since the last time I purchased their license.
$100 a year isn't the worst. So,
literally what it's going to do is it's going to say, look, Steve, you've written Azure Active Directory, MFA, whatever the term is. You've written about that 3 times. You're great. The URL that you're using, you've written Azure Active Directory. It's perfect. And it's literally the sort of like hand holder that will tell you exactly what you need to do when you're writing your blog post to ensure that it ranks on Google.
So I don't use Yoast. I don't care for them. I want to show you the one that I use, and I want you to tell me if you feel that it's comparable. So this is the RocketMSP website in the back end. I have not done a whole lot yet with it for setting everything up, right? So if I typed in here MSP community and then refresh analysis, I don't even know if it's gonna, it has MSP and it has community. There we go. So this is showing me similar things, right? So if I click this, it's telling me the headings that are missing, all that stuff, right?
It does look very similar. It does look very similar. I think that's again, I think that there's pros and cons to it. As an example, because of the tight relationship that Yoast and SEMrush have. As an example here, let me ask you a question. Could you tell me what keyword you're trying to rank for with this?
On this particular word, page?
Yeah, it's MSP community. Okay, great. Now, as you go down, do me a favor and walk me through how you would look at this to know how things are going. It looks like, hey, you got it in the meta title, social meta tags are done. Word counter looks good. I think that there are some additional things. This has a good sort of synopsis, but I do that there are some additional components in terms of adjacent keywords and additional elements in terms of other items such as, hey, look, you actually started rank for this already in your in some of your other blog posts. There's just some other elegance that Yoast will bring into play. But look, we all have our personal preferences. You got to
so you know why I don't like Yoast? It's because no matter what you do, you buy Yoast SEO for WordPress, and then it's still trying to sell you more garbage. No matter what, it still has more ads for oh, you should do this too. No, I just want to do what you do. Stop it.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with SEO Press.
Gotcha.
I think this is the right domain. Yeah. So I went with SEO Press because for for the person that's not using SEMrush and all these other platforms, right? You can get SEO Press Pro, and it does, I'll say, a lot of what Yoast does for less than half the price.
Yeah, perfect. So Steve, when you and I were talking before, you had asked a couple of questions about some of the things tools that we use and whatnot. One of the things I just want to mention really quick is, look, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do things. I also think that
yes, there is.
Perfect. One of the things I did want to say though is, you'd asked us, hey, what do we use internally for, as an example, help desk ticketing and all that stuff. We use good old fashioned email. So people just send us an email to hello@yottled.com and we just respond to that. That's basically it. We don't have Zendesk. We don't have any sort of like help desk ticketing or anything along those lines.
Sure.
It literally is just email. Our knowledge base is written on Notion. It's nothing fancy. And I think that a lot of times, people immediately jump into this perception that they need sort of like these, sort of like very robust tools in order to accomplish a specific goal. And so what I would advocate for is start with free tools, see how far you get. And then as you continue to sort of like demonstrate success, then continue to sort of like add on. But the very first thing that I always sort of like go back to is delight your customer, provide them value, and then continue to sort of like add on the tool until you're sort of like the point at which you need a tool is when you're overwhelmed. That's the point at which you should consider adding, something else into your quote stack.
Got it. Okay. Well, let's rewind a little bit or recalculating. Let's get back on course here, right?
Let's do it.
So we're back here. We've decided we're going to do some Azure Active Directory stuff. Now I know I'm going to write about disabling MSA for Azure Active Directory.
Yep.
Here's the part where people get stuck. What the heck do I write?
Yeah. So again, I think it comes down to what are you an expert at, or what do you feel passionate about? And what can you be effective in communicating? So as an example, if you know absolutely nothing about Azure Active Directory or multi-factor authentication or that stuff, don't write about it. If you're not passionate about it, don't write about it. The most important thing is that you're passionate about it and you know about it and you can effectively communicate it, because people are going to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're putting out garbage content just for the sake of ranking on Google, that's going to do benefit, and it's going to provide no benefit to your customer. And so you should always take a step back after you've written and after you sort of like push this content out and ask yourself, what would I find value from it? Would I benefit from this? And if the answer is yes, push that sucker out. That's amazing. That's phenomenal. But if you're, really struggling to sort of like, you're having to do the research on your own, and you you're not passionate about communicating it, then, I would reassess the information that you want to communicate, because I promise you have, as a person, in sort of like the MSP space, I guarantee you have, information that you are working on a daily basis, and you're solving problems, whatever that is. Write about that, because there are things that you have in your head, in your brain, the things that you are doing hands on keyboard. Those are the problems that customers have as well. And I guarantee you write about them, even if you consider it sort of like quote intellectual property, it's probably not, because of the fact that somebody like myself or other people in the world still are going to want to pay you to do that, so that they can, basically continue to expand and do other things. Your knowledge and your ability to do it, will be valued so much. And so I would highly, highly encourage you to basically say, here's what I do. Here's how you can do it. If you don't want to do it, contact me and I'll help you do it. And that to me is like, not to me, but to other people as well, like let them figure it out or, hit you up. And that's, think about it. Like if you go to Google and say like, how do I fix my furnace? You can do it yourself or contact an HVAC person and they'll come and do it for you. It's the same principle.
So I'm going to take this a couple steps further. Okay. So here's what I want to do. So let's say we've decided I'm writing it on Azure Active Directory, disable MFA. That's the keyword I'm going to focus on.
Yep.
And now we're like, now what? Right. So the next thing that I would do, and this is just me, and this is what I recommend for people, especially if you maybe don't think you're a great writer. Okay. So first we open up Surfer SEO. I'll put a link where you can sign up for Surfer down in the show notes in the description. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link. I will make a little bit of money for anyone that signs up and pays for Surfer. So this is it, right? I've created my content. It's done.
Perfect.
It's not done. Here, check out how great this is, right? If I come into this gear, this is allowing me to analyze the organic competition. And what it's doing is I can say, all right, of all the things that show up organically, which of these are actually competitors? So I'm not competing with Microsoft. I'm not competing with Plembo. I'm sorry, with GitHub. Others, I don't know what some of these things are. Akamai, I'm not trying to compete with them.
So this is great. I've actually never seen this before, but let's go actually through this. So Google itself loves what's considered long form content.
Mm-hmm.
And so long form is basically 700 to 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things coming from domains such as Microsoft are going to rank to the top. But
especially if it's about Microsoft Azure AD, right?
Yes. But if you actually look at this, those longer form content articles are obviously going to go to the top. The other thing that Google really likes, and even just think about ourselves, let's ask ourselves the things that we naturally gravitate towards. It's those top 10 lists. It's the top lists, or, it's the how-to articles. So here you can see sort of like, how to enable whatever. So those are the things that naturally Google is going to prioritize. And especially if you have the content to back it up, boom, it's going to go right to the top.
And I love that it tells you three important things here, right? It shows you the number of words that are on the page. It shows you the authority from the domain. So the domain authority, and then it shows you a content score based on their own scoring platform. So the authority, I believe, is the Google domain authority.
It's likely coming from another tool called Moz. So Moz is sort of like the internet authority for domains.
They really are a really awesome tool. All right, so that's how we do that. You can hit this button and load 10 more and have a total of 20 in the list, but I'm just going to keep it there. So according to all of the competitors that I picked, I even picked Microsoft. What the heck? I'll go after them too.
Let's do it.
It says I need to have around 519 to 596 words.
Yep.
It says that's all I need. 8 headings, 18 paragraphs, and 4 images. Based on what all of these other sites have, it's telling me that that's what I need. And then it lets me pick and choose the terms that I need to have on the on the page and the content. So I feel like I should also have MFA and maybe security and maybe password. Okay. And then I'll scroll down, and the next thing is it has topics and questions. People also ask. So maybe I'll include those. And then competitors also have this information, right? So I'll maybe I'll pick these 3 things. And then down here, you can make some extra stuff. From there, I'll hit let's go. The next thing I would do is I can scroll down, and it's telling me literally if I want to rank well, it says the more of these keywords I can hit, the better. And it says I have 0 multi-factor authentication MFA. I would probably get rid of that one because I wouldn't write it like that, But it says I should have it 2 or 3 times on the page. Whereas multi-factor authentication, I should have 5 to 16 times on the page. So this is literally giving me like some guidelines as to, well, here's how many times you should have each of these key phrases or keywords on your page. I would then go to the outline page or tab or whatever. Here's where it gets real fun. I'm going to get rid of this. Let's see. I'm going to add this. I'll add this and this. And then look, so all of those were titles. So all of these, I can now read it larger and I can pick between these. Which one is the content I'm going to write? Well, I'm going to write the top one. So there's that.
Yeah.
So I'll get rid of here. And then next it's got headings. So I'll add this one and I'll add this one. And then next it's got subheadings on this one. Oh, stay tuned for the latest updates. I probably wouldn't use that. And then after headings, it's got questions. How do I exclude an MFA account? How do I turn it on? How do I turn it off? How do I disable? And then from there, I can go to the brief, and it's giving me just a list of competitors that I've selected. In the outline here, Surfer AI generated the titles, headings, and subheadings using content from those competitor pages, but it's basically been rewritten so that way the content's unique. So now I've got, how many words do I have? A lot-ish. I think that's the technical term. Now I've got a lot of words, 426, and my content scores are 42. I haven't even written anything yet. So now I would have to go through and start cleaning this up and have it make sense and have it follow the appropriate order. And then we would, add a couple more sections and all that. And then you're kind of done. But wait, there's more. There's also more. Another tool. What was that?
I said, okay, there's more.
So there's another tool I use. Let's say you're really bad at writing. So I'll come in here and I'm going to create a new document. And we've decided that the title of this document is this. And we're going to write a blog article about disabling MFA in Azure Active Directory. The tone of voice, I like Joe Rogan. It's a good tone of voice. Azure Active Directory. That's good for now. And then I can also take all this. I'm going to paste it in here because Jasper links up with Surfer. Okay. So Jasper is a different piece of software that I'm paying for, but I can come in here and I can link these two together. And there we go. So the next thing I can do is I can say, I'm going to write an intro paragraph about disabling MFA in Azure Active Directory. And then I'm giving Jasper a command, and it's now writing for me. And now we're going to make a heading. Is disabling MFA in Azure Active Directory a bad idea? There you go. It's literally written all that for me. And I would just keep going, and I would just keep writing and writing and writing. And then I would look through here and I would say, okay, now I need to have security defaults and that kind of stuff. Should I have MFA as a security default in Azure AD? And the goal is to just let Jasper write all this content for me. And then I, again, go through, clean it up, update it, because their content might be based on something that's 2 or 3 years old because it's all the GPT-3 whatever platform, right? And eventually I start checking off more and more boxes of these keywords. And as soon as I get a bunch of these in green, eventually this will have a score that's like 70 or 75. And then I feel like it's ready to go on the website. So that's how I write.
Gotcha.
Content for a website. So, using SEMrush, I think would be really helpful because I don't think Surfer has a very good keyword research tool. Because if I type in Azure Active Directory in here, it doesn't feel the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's missing a bunch of, it's just not good.
Yeah.
If I do SERP Analyzer, I don't know why I added MFA. I suspect this is going to give me maybe slightly better information, but I still I don't actually understand what the point of the keyword research tool is in Surfer because it just it's nothing compared to this, you know?
Yeah. I swear by SEMrush. It's a phenomenal tool. Not only that, not only does it enable you to do the sort of research, it lets you sort of understand how your domain has grown from an organic traffic, paid traffic. It lets you do social posting. It's a really comprehensive tool. It's absolutely phenomenal. One of the things that I would advocate anyone does when it comes to content itself is, we have explored many different avenues ourselves. And, I think, for what it's worth, we've looked at the tools to write content. We've hired, contracts. Now we have a permanent content writer. We've written it ourselves, and we've explored many different avenues. One of the things that I would advocate to anyone is always taking the lens of, would I have benefited from the content? And so there's sort of like a couple different things to think about. One is there's writing the content for the sake of writing it, or putting the video out just for the sake of putting the video out, or any of those sort of objectives. We always sort of joke around that the best place to hide a body is on the second page of Google, right? No one's going to find you if you're on the second page of Google. You got to be on the first page.
Okay.
So there's sort of like the objective of getting the content written for the sake of writing it, and then getting on Google. That's sort of like, cool, we check the box from that perspective. But then the other thing that you have to ask is, am I writing things, or am I pushing out content that is actually valuable and beneficial to my customers. And when you actually take a step back, and regardless of what tool you're using, if you're using, Surfer and Jasper, if you have somebody that's writing the content, or if you're writing it yourself, you must ask yourself when you're actually reading it or viewing it, or whatever the case is, you must continue to ask yourself, would I, as the person searching for this, would I find this valuable? So if you ended up stumbling upon, let's, use our example here of disabling multi-factor authentication. If you yourself wrote it or use the tool or whatever the case is, if you put it out there, you got to ask yourself, is this something that I would be able to follow? Would I read it with the pictures that I'm introducing, or with the quick sort of videos that I'm introducing? Would I actually want to take the time to read it? And if the answer is no, then you got some more work to do. You have to basically continue to iterate and work on it. So the objective is not just to sort of push it out for the sake of ranking on Google. The objective is literally to provide that value to your customer, so that, because if you're pushing it out there and you're not proud of it and a customer isn't going to find value in it, then the question is, are they actually going to contact you to achieve the objective, like securing their Azure AD environment? Probably not. So that's why you want to make sure that you're providing that value to the customer, so that when they find that article, they're like, oh, snap, Steve's amazing. I want to contact him to actually, come in and do that MFA deployment. And then when they actually do contact you, they're like, hey, Steve, I have this problem. And you're like, oh, actually, I got this other product that I want to, introduce you to, or whatever the case is.
Got it. Trevor, I really appreciate it. We spoke at the beginning, we said we're going to talk about, providing value. And I think this absolutely is providing value, but this was just one small piece, right? We spoke so, oh man, I love how deep we went into this too. Like, we literally took it to, we almost wrote the draft of an article about it, disabling MFA for Azure AD. Obviously,
right.
That is, I would do a much better job and actually read what's being written. Okay. I just want to clarify. I'm not like, 12 minutes later, oh, cool, my article's done. Like, so, but I love how deep we went. I bet there's so much more we could talk about when it comes to how to provide value to not just prospects, but existing customers too, because
absolutely,
you have to, once you get their money, maybe it's a subscription, or it's, it's that monthly recurring revenue, right? You go, your whole thing is based off monthly or annual recurring revenue. So is ours. So, okay, great. You got a new client. How do you keep them?
Absolutely.
Can we spend a couple minutes on that?
I think we should. So I think one of the things that if you consider sort of like a lot of the products that you probably enjoy, and I know that we enjoy as well, I'll give you a great example. So we use a product called JustWorks, which is how we pay our employees, and so it's a payroll provider. We also use another product called it's called Deal, DEEL. So we have international employees, and that's how we pay our international employees. I think we recommend if you are wanting to hire people outside of your country, Deal is one of the simplest and easiest to use platforms I've ever interacted with. And you can hire an international employee 24 hours later. It is, I've never been, it's absolutely phenomenal. And JustWorks, if you're looking for a way to sort of like get payroll supported for, people local, holy smokes, it's also really, really phenomenal. You can extend, benefits and 401k and all that stuff. It's great. But I'll use JustWorks to establish the example here. So, JustWorks, they got our money, we pay, I think, $50 per month per employee to be able to extend, maybe it's $100 per month, per employee to be able to extend, payroll and, benefits and all that stuff. So we, though, however, get a monthly newsletter from them centered around, you guessed it, Steve, content. So Not only does it benefit any new people that they may interact with, but it also benefits me as the employer. Hey, guess what? Do you have questions about tax time? Here's the sort of things that you may need to know. Here's sort of like, click this thing. Cool. Do you have benefits about how, legalization of marijuana may impact your sort of like employees and so on and so forth? That was a very recent article. Hey, do you have questions about X, Y, and Z? Hey, guess what? Do you want a referral bonus? If you refer us to one of your customers, we'll give you $100 per employee of the business. So guess what? Trevor, if you refer us to a 50-person business, you got a $5,000 check coming your way. And so they make it very sort of like, again, it's not focused on pushing us anything. They got our money. All it is focused on enablement around sort of like questions that they have heard about their customers asking, and then how we can, sort of learn about sort of like questions that other people have asked about: taxes, benefits, how to set up a 401k program. There's literally, they're going to get no extra money from me. We're like, the only other money they're getting from me is if I onboard another employee. We're not going anywhere. It's an amazing platform. And they just continue to send us this monthly sort of content that's focused on payroll and, all that stuff.
Well, I like that. Having content ready. And again, it's going to come down to what kind of problems am I solving today, right?
Yep.
They're writing content about, the legalization of marijuana in states because they're getting a lot of questions about that. So what questions are you MSPs getting about, what are you getting questioned about right now?
That's right.
You're probably answering a lot of questions about the same thing over and over and over. For me, and I brought it up at the beginning, I'm going to say something about it again. That whole Datto acquisition by Kaseya, that happened this morning is when it was announced. Okay. So it's Monday, April 11th as we record this. It may be a couple weeks before it gets posted, right? So I'm going to be getting questions from MSPs. What do you think, Steve? Should I leave them? Should I do this? Should I do that? So the thing that actually makes the most sense is I should probably write a blog article and give an opinion about the Datto Kaseya thing and make some recommendations based on, X, Y, and Z, right? And then send that out as a newsletter thing and say, hey, if, not sure what to do about the Datto acquisition, check out this blog article I just wrote.
Exactly right.
So that is how you have happy prospects and happy clients, because all you're doing is educating them. Crazy,
that's right? That's exactly it. And then all of a sudden you're perceived as a thought leader. They're going to continue to ask you questions. And then all of a sudden it's just this natural thing that happens. Like, just you're providing value. They ask you a couple questions. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're asking you, hey, what do you think about this MFA provider? We're stuck on the MFA thing. Also, I used to work at Duo, so MFA, natural thing. Hey, what do you think about this MFA provider? It's okay. What are your goals for MFA? Well, I just want to be so simple and easy to use. And my help desk tickets, I'm constantly getting called. So I don't know. Well, guess what? I think that, there's a couple of other MFA providers right now. I can send you some information. All of a sudden, boom, you got a top 10 MFA providers. Let's go take a look at this. And it's just sort of like naturally goes, right? It's just, it's cyclical. And then you got this article that is getting you results on Google, and then you get more business from that because, again, you're focused on providing value.
Well, for those of you that are wondering what your next steps should be, I think, and I'll ask Trevor what he thinks, I think you should think about the things that your customers ask you about most. Make a list, customers are constantly asking me, how do I reset my 365 password because I forgot? Or how do I enable self-service password management on 365 so I don't have to do it? That dumb little things like that, right? So make a list of the stuff that customers are constantly asking you about, and then start thinking about ways that you can capitalize on the knowledge it's already in your head, right? Customer wants to get a new computer. Well, maybe now's like, if you need it in 3 months, order it now, because chances are supply chain issues, right? I've got a buddy. He just ordered a MacBook Pro, the new fancy one with the M1 Max chip in it, and it got delayed another month. It was supposed to get delivered next week, and they were like, "Just kidding." Now it says May. So
yeah, I mean, great. Yes.
Yeah. So you got to take things like that out of your head and just put them on paper. Use a tool like Jasper. I'll put an affiliate link to that too. Use a tool like Jasper to help you write some of the content, just in a better, more articulated way. Okay. Use a tool like Surfer to help make sure that you're getting all of the right keywords into the article as you write it. Use a tool like SEMrush. This looks really cool. It makes me want to spend the $120 a month.
It's amazing. I promise you, if you are looking to get ranked, and look, as you already said, Steve, I get no compensation for this. I'm just a user of SEMrush. Mm-hmm. I get no comp for SEMrush. I get no comp for Yoast, WordPress, right. Any of the tools that we talked about, right? I just am a user of it. I love it. It is I cannot do my job effectively without SEMrush. It's a phenomenal tool. It'll help you do research. It'll help you do social posts. It's absolutely fundamentally, it's one of the best SEO tools you can go out and use.
So, Trevor, when we're done, I'd love if you could stick around for just a couple of minutes so we can chat.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, guys, just take a few minutes, make a list of articles to write. Okay. Write some blog articles. Stop using, well, maybe don't stop using it. Keep using it, but stop thinking the only blog posts you need are the syndicated ones that you're getting from whatever marketing service you're paying for. Okay. Because what you may not even be doing right is you need to turn off the indexing on those. You have to tell the robots no indexing those posts, because as soon as you index syndicated content, it actually is hurting your page ranking, because you and 500 other people have the exact same article on their website. So yeah, don't rely on syndicated article to get found. Rely on that as just additional things that you can put in that newsletter that you send out, which also includes the blog articles you're writing. Okay. So Trevor, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, that you popped on here. I'd love to have you on again. I think,
yeah,
you sound like you know what you're doing.
I mean, hey, we'll never know. As I like to say, MSPs, I think have one of the toughest jobs, because you got to do everything. You have to earn business. You have to get your newsletter out, market yourself. You have to, basically do everything. Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat. I like to articulate myself as an intern of everything. And so we are all trying to sort of hustle hard. And so if anyone has questions, and that you can reach out to me directly, my email is trevor@yottled.com. If you have questions, just reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to, banter back and forth via email, or, if necessary, jump on a call. More than happy to answer. And also, if you want to join our MSP partner program, happy to set anyone up with that as well.
Awesome. Trevor, thanks so much. For those of you watching, thanks so much for making it to the end, and I'll catch you at the next episode.